Is the Caleb Williams production real, or is it time to deal? We'll get into that and more next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Michael Fabiano, and it's a Wednesday show. So, of course, our good friend Matt Williamson is here to answer your Twitter questions. We're going to talk about Jaxson Dart starting in New York. We're going to talk about Tee Higgins and whether or not he's the most overrated dynasty asset in all of fantasy right now. But, Matt, let's do some real or time to deal. And I want to start with Caleb Williams coming off a monster game. He is quarterback 3 after 3 games. Are you buying it?
Well, Marcus, what do you think of the Cowboys' defense?
I don't think anything.
I think that is in play here, that they're kind of going to be this year's Bengals where you just start everybody against the Cowboys. I have mixed feelings. I think it was a massive step in the right direction, and I thought too many people panicked with Williams' first 2 outings with a new system, with a new coach, etc. There's tons of ability there. His highs are very high, but he also misses a lot of layups. I would listen to offers. Let's put it that way. I mean, if people are super excited about him, I would consider moving him because it's not a hard position to, find somebody else. Superflex is a little different, of course. But I do have hope, so I would not give him away by any stretch, or he must go. I wouldn't pursue him, but if I owned him, I might throw him on the trade block and just see what flies come around,
What about you, Fabs?
Yeah, I'm thinking real. I don't know that I'd want to trade him, although I'm always open to making trades. It really depends on what's offered to me, obviously. But Ben Johnson coming in, bringing in more talent. Rome Odunze is seemingly becoming the alpha there through 3 weeks. DJ Moore is obviously a very talented pass catcher. And, we've even started to see some improvements over what he did last year, right? I mean, he averaged 208 passing yards per game last year. His passing EPA was negative 69.4. Like, that's bad. This year, I get it. It's 3 games, around 240 passing yards per game. His passing EPA is up to plus 11.4. So that's good. And people forget, when we talk about running quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks, we always think of Jaden Daniels, we think of Lamar Jackson. Caleb Williams is on pace to rush for over 500 yards right now. And that's something that he's always been able to do, even dating back to his time at USC. He's been a guy who can run with the ball. That's big in fantasy. So there's a world where he's a top 10 dynasty quarterback for, the next 5+ years in Ben Johnson's system with the talent they have. And if you think about it, I mean, Colston Loveland hasn't really done anything yet. Luther Burden had a good game, against Dallas because Dallas sucks. But he hasn't done, too much yet. They've got a lot of talent there. And I would think that they would add a running back at some point, maybe in the draft next year. This could be a fun offense. I don't know if the Bears are going to win a lot of games, but this could be a fun offense to watch. And so I'm kind of in on Caleb, considering his age, the upside, his running ability. So I would say, in the words of, was it Jerry Seinfeld or Elaine? They're real or they're spectacular. No, it was Terry Hatcher.
It was Terry Hatcher. Yeah.
Terry Hatcher. Yes. I think he's real and he's spectacular.
There you go.
And she was right.
Yeah,
He was right.
All right, got to change this conversation. Matt, the most common trade that we've seen for Caleb Williams over the last week on Dynasty League football is Caleb Williams straight up for Joe Burrow, who was quarterback 4 going into the month of September. Now, I wonder if that's just a lot of teams maybe trying to tank, quote unquote tank.
Yeah.
And they're trading Williams for, a guy that they think it's going to not help them this year, get a better draft pick, and help them in the future. Is that a move that you would make?
Absolutely. I'd much rather Burrow.
Okay. What about you?
I just think he's going to be a great quarterback for anytime he's on the field. And if I'm sure I have some other quarterback or can attain another quarterback right now while Burrow sits out the rest of the year.
Fabs?
I mean, on the surface, the answer is Burrow, but this is his third major injury in the NFL. So, you start to wonder, like, is he like the Christian McCaffrey of quarterbacks? He had the ACL tear. Now he's got the toe. He had the wrist. I mean, Joe Burrow's not durable, and that's a problem. And, Caleb Williams has never had durability issues. So it's close, man. I mean, I'd probably still, if we're talking long term, I'd probably still rather have Joe Burrow, but that gap is closed. And Joe Burrow now is going to be one of those players that everyone's going to be wondering, yes, he's great, but can he stay healthy?
Let's talk about our Cowboys, because this is kind of a Cowboy show. 2 Cowboy fans.
Can we not?
Yeah, we have to.
Okay.
Let's talk about Jake Ferguson, who is
the only bright spot that we have besides our kicker.
That's why I'm bringing him up. Jake Ferguson, the number 1 tight end in fantasy football after 3 weeks, despite not scoring a touchdown. Matt, are you buying this, or is it time to deal him while he's producing at an elite level?
I'd probably move on from him. And I got to admit, I have a little bit of a blind spot, a little bit of maybe a weakness. But in the world of tight ends, I'm not looking for an average talent. I mean, I'm looking for massive upside. Ryan and I used to have a joke going. I just have so many hot young tight ends sitting on the end of my roster. I mean, the dudes that could explode, that they're great combine dudes, athletes, mid-round picks. Ferguson, to me, is just not my style from a ceiling perspective.
What about for you, Fabs?
No, we both liked him, Marcus, coming into the season. Mm-hmm. He's the tight end 20 right now, based on ADP. It's not like he's old. He's 26. His ADP is in the 150s. And the 1 year where Ferguson was a starter and Dak Prescott played the majority of the games, he was a top 10 tight end. And now that CD's out, and we don't know how long he's going to be out, hopefully not that long, at least from a fantasy standpoint. I mean, I have so many shares of CeeDee Lamb, I want to cry. But he is going to be the most targeted player in Dallas's offense. It's not going to be George Pickens. It's going to be Jake Ferguson. He leads all tight ends in targets and catches and fantasy points right now. And I get it. It's only 3 weeks. But listen, it's the same thing with like Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen. Like sometimes a quarterback and a receiver just have a thing. And Dak loves Jake Ferguson. When the Cowboys decided to extend his contract, Dak was a big part of it. He loves this guy. And so it's just like if I'm the quarterback and Marcus Mosher is my wide receiver, and maybe I've got a couple of other guys out there, I love me some Marcus Mosher, so I'm going to throw him the football.
That guy moves the chains, man.
No, I do not.
But I think in situations like this, you have to factor that in. And tight end 20 right now in Dynasty. So and at 26 years old, yeah, I'm in. I'm definitely in.
I have mixed feelings on Ferguson because I like the production and the targets are insane right now. Mm-hmm. But he's not really breaking any tackles. He's not scoring touchdowns. So all of his production is just based on targets, right? And now I will say the Cowboys did sign him to a contract extension. And that matters, right? When you got a guy that's locked into an offense for the foreseeable future, having that stability matters a little bit. But I'm not valuing him the same way I would like Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, obviously. And I don't even know if like Sam Laporta is somebody that I would take over him. I will say, Matt, right now on Dynasty League football, you're not really seeing any of those big time trades. Like the most common trade for Ferguson is like a 2027 second round pick. So it's actually pretty cheap to go out and get him if you do believe in the situation and the production.
Especially, I guess, if you're, say, a Kittle owner or one of these tight ends that's underperforming and you just want a short-term fix and deal with it later. And if he blows up and Kittle comes back, you trade him again. I can see that scenario. I wouldn't be psyched to actively get him to be my long-term number 1 tight end.
Okay. What about you, Fabs? I think you're more in than what Matt is.
Again, you and I talked about Ferguson like in the preseason about a guy who's like a bargain because he has a rapport with Dak. And now, with CD out, obviously, thank goodness he's not out for the season, but he's going to be out several weeks. That just improves his value. Now, if you want to sell high on Ferguson when CD's about to come back, if he's continuing to put up these great numbers, like I can understand that. But I mean, right now, Jake Ferguson is locked and loaded in redrafts. And I know this is not a redraft show, but the rankings are the rankings, no matter what kind of league you're in. I have Jake Ferguson third right now going into week 4. Third.
Yeah, he's going to be putting up big numbers, at least for this season. We'll see what happens with the Cowboys wide receivers and the rest of the offense moving forward. All right, let's talk about Jaxson Dart, who is now officially the starting quarterback with the New York Giants. What is his dynasty value? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all of the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make your everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling and with incredible controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. I know for me, where I live, you have to have all-wheel drive, and that's where Mazda delivers. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Let's talk, Matt, about Jaxson Dart, who it only took 3 games for him to get on the field with the New York Giants. Russell Wilson is to the bench. By the way, Russell Wilson had a 450-yard passing game against that Cowboy defense. Still didn't save his job. So I think even the Giants knew that it wasn't real. Matt, what is your take on Jaxson Dart in Dynasty leagues right now? He's quarterback 23. Are you buying before we get his first start, or do you kind of want to wait and see how things play out?
But let me stop you real quick. If they were to reshuffle ADP right now, do you really think he would go 23rd off the board?
No,
I mean, I don't.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think he's probably in the low 20s, upper teens, like in that 20 QB 19 range.
Yeah, I think if we had a startup today, he goes pretty high, because there's 2 or 3 people probably excited as could be about him.
So are you drafting him, or would you value him over guys like Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, Cam Ward?
Not Ward, for sure. The other ones are similar. Penix lack of running concerns me.
Lawrence?
I'm still a Lawrence supporter, and that limb's getting a little weak to be out on. I didn't love Dart coming out of school. He has blown me away that he is a much better player than I expected. Preseason buzz, but I just don't trust that organization. I mean, quarterbacks to me are more about the organization than their own abilities, because I think what's going to happen is the Giants are going to lose a ton of games. Dart will be okay. Everyone's going to get fired. The new staff may or may not like him. They'll have the 6th pick in the draft, and they'll be saying, should we take Nussmeier and trade Dart, or what do we do? And then you're happy you traded him.
What about you, Fabs? How are you handling this Jaxson Dart situation?
See, I like Dart coming out of college because he can run with the football, and he's a guy who's not afraid to take chances downfield. Last year his completion percentage was, 68.4. PFF graded him as the 2nd best quarterback in FBS, behind only Cam Ward. He had a 10.6 yards per attempt among quarterbacks with a minimum of 300 dropbacks last year. He was 2nd in the position in terms of ADOT. He was tied for 6th in the Big Ten, in big time throws. And Malik Neighbors is on his team. And Cam Scatabo is on his team. And honestly, Brian Daboll's probably not long for the Giants, but I would be shocked if they didn't bring in an offensive head coach, whoever it is coming in next. I think the defense has got a lot of talent, but they need to build around Jaxson Dart. And Jaxson Dart, again, he can throw it, threw for over 4,200 yards last year, rushed for almost 500 yards. So he's, you may say, well, maybe he's like Kenny Pickett 2.0. Let's hope that's not the case, because we said a lot of the same things about him coming out of Pitt. But I do like him. And I would rather have, I don't like Trevor Lawrence. So I mean, like Matt will disagree there. I'd rather have him over Trevor Lawrence. just the weapons. The Giants are building something on offense. When you've got an alpha and Malik Neighbors, Wendell Robinson is a fine slot receiver. Cam Scatterbo, he could be something nice there for the G-men, and they'll continue to add to that, improve the offensive line. I like him just because of his skill set and some of the weapons that the Giants already have. And, as Matt mentioned, they're going to lose a lot of games, which means they're going to have to throw a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also a good thing where, and boy, this is going to be a fun matchup against the Chargers this week. I'm a fan. I like Jaxson Dart. I think he can make a fantasy impact long-term.
Matt, I have very mixed feelings on this one again, because there's a lot of people like Todd McShay who's loved him, compared him to Jalen Hurts. And you can see a little bit of that. Like, he's got this ability to run. I think he's a smart runner. He's got an above average arm. He will take chances down the field. And then you listen to Chris Collinsworth during the Sunday Night Football broadcast, and he was basically trying to tell you, like, everybody in this building is super excited about him and they cannot wait for him to get his start, which I get. Like, you have a first round quarterback, that typically happens. From a dynasty perspective, I wonder if it's not so much about him and everybody else, because you watched that game on Sunday night, and Malik Neighbors' body language was awful. Like, you could just tell, like, he was so done with Russell Wilson. I wonder if Dart, from a dynasty perspective, will be in that, QB 20 range, but maybe he is the type of guy that's going to be good enough to actually elevate Neighbors to being a top 3, top 4 dynasty receiver, making Cam Scatterbo a better player. Cause that's my hope here.
And I totally get all that, and I won't even fight you on it. I mean, I do think everyone is done with Russ. I mean, I was around him for a year, and everyone was happy to see him go from Pittsburgh, and I'm sure everybody was happy to see him go from Denver, and sounds like people were happy to see him go from Seattle. Yeah, I get it. I just think that he is in a dysfunctional organization. I mean, it's more of an NFL take than it is a knock on Dart. It's just bad teams don't develop quarterbacks. Bad organizations.
I can't believe I'm about to make this comp, but could he have the same kind of effect that, like, Daniel Jones, another Giants quarterback, is having in Indianapolis, where he's not an elite quarterback, but he's playing well enough to feed everybody else? I think that's what you're hoping for.
It's certainly possible, and his legs do raise the floor. But you mentioned Jones, and Peacock and Williamson, we were talking about, like, Darnold and Baker and all these guys that go take a year off, hang with Shanahan or O'Connell or McVay, and then all of a sudden they reach their talent. They go to a good environment. It kind of pads my argument that you go to a good environment, you get your stuff right, and then you become a good player. You get out of the toxic environment. I mean, I don't hate Dart as much as I did, or hate's a big word. I don't dislike him as much as I used to. I just think now that you mentioned, Collinsworth couldn't stop talking about him. There's buzz. Somebody in your league wants to take him off your hands and maybe overpay.
Can we admit something, though? Collinsworth can't say a bad word about anybody. Well, Patrick Mahomes was throwing backward passes in that game, and oh my God, that was the greatest backward pass I've ever seen. I mean, Chris Collinsworth, I love him. He's a great dude, but I mean, he loves everybody, man.
Yeah. I just think there's buzz around Dart right now. Someone in your league is excited about him. Shop him.
Yeah. Real quick, what do you think you could get from Jaxson Dart? Like, if you had him on your team, let's say you drafted him in your super flex drafts, late round 1, would you flip him for, I'm just looking at some of the quarterbacks that are being drafted above him right now. Would you flip him for Brock Purdy?
That's close. I don't think you gain a whole heck of a lot there. I would be more interested in, like, swapping them for Rachel Tootin.
Okay. So I probably agree with you. You're probably not going to get the value at quarterback, but if in a super flex league, you can trade him for a starting caliber receiver. It probably makes the most sense. All right, let's talk about Tee Higgins, who I have no idea what to do with him in our dynasty leagues. Now that Joe Burrow is out for the year, he's not getting the targets. Is he the most overrated dynasty asset, or is now the time to buy low? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether that's player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game even more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your dynasty lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add just a little bit more juice and energy to your Sundays. Like, I know for me, I love doing some parlays before the game start, some money line parlays, just giving me some different teams to root for on Sundays because I don't like watching my current team play at all right now. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Podcast, 2 shows every single day, one in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Matt, I want to talk about Tee Higgins because I was reading some Reddit threads the other day, and there was a big discussion about Tee Higgins and his dynasty value. Going into September, he was wide receiver 16. And again, I think if you redraft now, he's quite a bit lower. But what are we doing with Tee Higgins in our dynasty leagues, considering, he's going to be blocked by Jamar Chase and the Joe Burrow injury history?
So Fab's laid it out. I mean, the Burrow injury history is real. In terms of finding a Burrow replacement at quarterback, it doesn't worry me as much. In this instance, it worries me more because without Burrow, Higgins loses a lot of his superpowers. And a starting wide receiver is harder to come by than just getting a quarterback I can live with in fantasy. If I own Higgins, now's not the time to shop him, though. I mean, I think I'd have a hard time getting enough in return for him. But by no means am I looking to pluck him off someone else's roster right now either. He's kind of like the definition of a hold for me.
What about for you, Fabs?
I mean, I had him coming into the season as a bust because he benefited last year from Burrow having a career season. He's only averaged more than 16.5 points twice in his career, and one of it was last year. He's played in 12 or fewer games in each of the last couple of seasons. And his value is predicated on the health of an injury-prone quarterback. Because now we're freaking out because Jake Browning. I mean, listen, last week was bad. Okay. You throw that out. Now, you see what you could do this week. Although it's not a great matchup against Denver. I just was never big on Higgins. Like, his ADP is higher than Garrett Wilson. I think that's crazy. It's higher than Emeka Egbuka. I think that's crazy. It's higher than Rashee Rice. I think we both think, Marcus, that's crazy. There's players that he was going higher than. I'm like, dynasty people drink a lot, I guess. I mean, I don't know because I don't get it. But I also was very high on Garrett Wilson more than a lot of people. So, maybe that was just a me thing. But like, Higgins is a guy, he's never going to be an alpha because it's always going to be Jamar. And his value, again, predicated on the health of a quarterback who is now out again. 3rd major injury in his career, and is a young guy. Matt's right. You can't trade him. What are you trading for right now? Because you're not going to have Burrow until mid-December and probably for the rest of the season. And so it's Jake Browning. And when Jake Browning was a quarterback a couple of years ago, T was like a 13, 14 point per game guy, but it's not bad. It's not bad. But if you truly think that this guy is a wide receiver 16 type, I mean, and last year he had 17, 18 points per game. Like, that's kind of what you were thinking, pie in the sky scenario. But now the sky has fallen on Higgins' fantasy value across the board.
I do wonder with their schedule coming up. Now, they play the Broncos here in week 4. That's going to be a tough matchup, although it hasn't been a tough matchup for opposing offenses. But, they play a lot of defenses coming up that have struggled, whether that's like the Jets, the Bears, even Matt, your Steelers. The Ravens suddenly don't look like they're great on defense. I just wonder if the game that we saw last week.
No running game, no line.
Well, I know.
They're a disaster.
They are a disaster.
That schedule, actually, you mentioned the running game is good for Chase Brown.
It is good. I'm just wondering.
In the second half of the season, I was doing some research on that. Like, that's a guy that I would try and go out and get now. Just because last week, that was the low of the low. And I think he's a guy you can go out and get.
I just wonder if the game against Minnesota last week was just more of an outlier where Browning looked awful and the offense couldn't move. I just think as Browning settles into the starting lineup, it's going to be more functional. Now, are you going to get wide receiver 15, 16 production? Probably not. But I don't think I don't think Tee Higgins is suddenly going to be a guy that you're afraid to put in your starting lineups, Matt.
I was about to say the same thing. Like in redraft, I'm still starting him.
Correct. That's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
I want to go.
But I'll push back on that a little bit. What if I got Ricky Pearsall? What if I got Jacoby Myers? And
I mean, if you've got viable options,
like Tee Higgins was a guy that I was leaving in my lineup every single week. Now I don't think that's the case. Like if I have Roma Dunze, I'm starting him over Higgins all day long.
Yeah.
But like I still think Myers all day long. Like,
but I'm not starting Keyshawn Booty over him, right?
No. Of course, of course not. But there are wide receivers, and a lot of them that people had ranked lower than Higgins that now have jumped him in terms of being a starter. Like with Jamar Chase, yeah, you're still starting him. I mean, there's no question about that. But I think Tee Higgins, I don't know. Like if I have some wide receiver depth, and if I have maybe some of the guys that I mentioned, hell, I might start George Pickens over him this week. Okay, maybe not. But anyways, like you get my point. You get my point. There are players that you can replace Tee Higgins with, and these guys. I mean, hell, at this point, I'm not going to get crazy or anything like that. But like Michael Pittman Jr. is a better play than Tee Higgins right now.
Yeah,
those are all
easy ones. Those are all easy ones to me. I want to go through some trades that have happened. These are over the last 3 days, so these are all very recent. You guys tell me where you land. Tee Higgins for Deebo Samuel. These are all dynasty leagues.
Oh, Higgins.
Yeah, Higgins.
Okay, I'm with you. Tee Higgins for Tucker Kraft.
Ooh, I love Tucker Kraft. You hit
I do too. I mean, that depends on need, really. I mean, it's a fair trade.
Tee Higgins for Jake Ferguson.
No.
Okay, I think I'd rather have Higgins. Higgins for Devontae Smith.
No, I'd rather have Higgins still.
Okay.
Could you get a future first for Higgins?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, sweeten it with a third or something, or
maybe
sprinkle
a couple
something
more.
in.
This is fascinating. Tee Higgins in a 2026 first round pick for Brian Thomas Jr.
I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. has been awful.
He's brutal.
His catch rate's 28% right now. I mean, I in a redraft, I just traded him for Chase Brown because I have too many shares of Brian Thomas Jr. I needed to get out from that hell that I've been in for the first. I don't know what's going on with that offense, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling real great about BTJ. Again, I said this earlier on the podcast. I think it was last week. Matt Jones was the guy that I don't want to say made Brian Thomas Jr., but he threw the ball to him a ton. And even though the targets are still there, when you got a 28% catch rate and you're supposed to be an elite level wide receiver, I mean, that is bad, dude. That is bad.
Two more trades.
The middle either.
No, he's terrified of going over the middle. Two more trades I wanted to mention to you guys. These are all over the last couple of days. Tee Higgins for Trey Benson straight up.
Depends where my team's at.
Fair trade, but depends on need. Yeah, because I think Benson's going to be the guy moving forward for the Cardinals, not even just this year. I think Connor's kind of cooked.
Yeah. If I need a back right now, then yeah.
Okay, let's say you need a running back here, or you need a running back. Would you trade Tee Higgins for Travion Henderson?
Yes.
Yep. If I need a running back, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
I don't know. If you need a running back, Travion Henderson's probably not the guy to help you out, but I also think that's a good long-term play. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Check us out on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Matt on Twitter at Williamson NFL. You can follow Fabs at Michael _Fabiano. I'm at Marcus _Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.